Shalom, and thank you for joining us today on the Higher Learning Network. I am so excited. I have a young man here today, all the way from New York City. He is an author of the month for many, many months here at the Higher Learning Network, as well as just got a multitude of knowledge. Let us welcome Kinja Dixon from New York City.
How
New
are
York,
you
New
doing?
York.
Very glad to be here.
Thank you so much for showing up today. I understand that you've been here a few days.
Yes.
And you didn't contact us, but I'll forgive you for that. I won't hold that against you. I know you had to make your rounds and all the other radio and television stations while you were here. Kinja, you are the author of Universal Talk Laws. How did that come about? Tell us who you are and a little history. I read the book, and let me tell you up front. My ego said to me, now what can a 35-year-old young man possibly have to say to me that I don't already know? That's ego, you know that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But I read the book because I do listen to the spirit within that tells me what to do, when to do, and how to do it. So I read the book, and I am so excited. I read this book. I've told all my friends about it. It's in the e-blast, it's in social media, everywhere. And now that we have you here on stage, tell us who you are and how you came to be who you are today.
Well, it's been a long journey. Last year in February, I was blessed to win the Stevie Foundation Award, putting me in the history books as the #1 sales executive for that year in vacation ownership and in the world in all sales companies. But then,
Whoa. In the world?
yes,
Did you
Stevie
hear what he said?
Foundation.
The world. Not just in New York or Chicago, but the world.
And then 3 months after that, I was blessed to win the American Resort Development Association Award that said I was the #1 in-house sales executive in all of vacation ownership. Those two awards won by the same person has never happened in the history of those organizations giving those awards.
Really?
4 days after the second award, I was driving, and I've been in my career prior to me retiring in October of last year for about 9 years. But the Spirit said, Kinja, you can help more people than what you've been doing. It's not about you anymore. You've put yourself in the history books. What else can you do? And the idea of a book that journaled my mindset and the steps in all conversations, which put me in the history books, I wanted to share with the world. And I have been so blessed since I've made that choice.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity of allowing the Higher Learning Network to continue to spread the work about the good work that you continue to do. Now, let's back up just a little bit. You talked about your recognition in the sales industry. What type of sales did you say? Was it
Wyndham Vacation Ownership. I sold vacation ownership.
like timeshare?
Timeshare.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
ma'am. Yes,
okay.
ma'am. For a total of.
I've been to a few of those, so
Yes,
I know.
ma'am.
Okay.
And that's one of the benefits at the seminars. I say, if I was able to achieve a 68% close during the year that put me in that award situation with people that already set a plan before they go on the presentation. Hey, I'm not buying nothing. I'm saying no before they even say yes.
Right.
So if I was able to figure out a process to get the 68% of those families to enjoy some more family ownership, the people that just work in, normal sales organizations or stay-at-home moms that want to try to get their son or daughter or husband to do more. It's literally universal talk laws because this is something that can be used in all realms of your communication.
Give us an example, because I've been to timeshares,
Yes.
and I'm going to be honest, I was not interested in the property at all. They just flew us there and they said, stay in the hotel and just go to this presentation. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a good time. I'm not interested.
Yes.
And one of the sales rep almost, he was good. He almost closed us, but he didn't, so he had to bring in a buddy to try to close us, and that still didn't work. So
Exactly.
I was not interested in living in Vegas at the time, but I am now because it's so cold here in Chicago. So give us an idea of what that was like in order when you're trying to persuade somebody using the universal talk laws. What is that like?
First, what I had to realize over the course of the years of people going on vacation ownership tours, the reason why they had such a big defense is because 85 to 90% of the sales executives that they talk to are not there to strictly help the customer. Their goal, and not just in vacation ownership, but in sales overall is to sell
Close
and
the
make
deal.
money.
Close the
So
deal.
what ends up taking place in those first initial minutes, as opposed to finding out what that buying motive is, why the family's on vacation, what's going on with that family, where they're from, how long they've been married. I want to know you. The customer sometimes smells that,
Yes.
hold on, this
Yes.
guy, this
Yes.
woman
Yes.
is not here for me. And that is when the beginning of the end starts.
Right.
And what I learned is that the greeting is so very important, because you really naturally want to know about the people that you're talking to. And that's in conversations. I know you talked to someone where the conversation is all about them. And you can tell what their motive is. One of the best parts of my process is really genuinely knowing who you're talking to and asking third, fourth, fifth level questions that talk about where they came from and what type of thought process they had to get you there.
Okay. Now, speaking of thought processes, there are some quotes. I have several pages, many pages turned in the book, and you talk about patterns. The way in which we live now has developed a set of patterns, because I know when I'm under pressure to perform a certain task, I get busy doing other things other than addressing that which needs to be done. What kind of patterns did you notice in yourself that brought you to where you are today, and to help you overcome some of the patterns that you had developed and the mindset that goes along with it?
Well, I talk about this in 2004. When I first got out of the Air Force, a friend of mine introduced me into a telemarketing firm called MCI. And I was a telemarketer. I was 21 years old, was blessed to average around $60,000 to $70,000 a year from 21 to about 24. But when I was 24, they said that our company was closing down.
Back up, hold on a second. You said MCI, the telephone company.
The telephone company
that went out of business.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a girlfriend that worked there, and I worked in telemarketing a good 10 years of my life, and I loved it. I closed every deal there was. But I had no idea that you could make that kind of money, because I didn't make that kind of money.
Well, I started off selling for 6 months, and then I became a manager, and that's when my life changed, because I had to help these high school, college graduates learn that it was more than just working for an hour, because you got your real money when you made a bonus. That means you had to close a certain amount of people. But back to answer your question, when the company closed down, I found out at 24 that I was angry. I was upset. I had a set plan. I thought I was going to be in that scenario for 20 years. And then I transitioned into Fairfield, which is now Wyndham. And I document why I almost quit Wyndham within the first 3 months, because I carried remorse, anger, all types of feelings into my new situation. So what I learned is that I'm the type of person that give my all, and I found out early in my life that I cannot let yesterday's turmoil decide how my future is going to be. And unfortunately, the way our country, the way our world is, so many people have stained their future development because of past horror that they went through. What I learned is that all horror, once it's looked at and soaked up the right way, can turn into a breakthrough. And the people that go through the most, you're set up for victory the most, because what I've learned is you have learned how to weather the storm. A muscle doesn't develop unless it gets confused. And that's, if you're confused, if you're feeling beat up, you're really set up for victory. And that's what I'm now helping people realize. Turn your misery into victory.
All right, I love that. On page 34 of Universal Talk Laws, they're talking about habits. You said you become stained when you bring in the old stuff to the new situation. You said all habits are created by competition. Excuse me, by repetition. Let me try that again. All habits are created by repetition, so that the way you have viewed life is a direct reflection of your past habits.
And this goes back to our household. we have been trained to do certain things. For instance, at one of Bob Proctor's seminars I went to, he talked about why do we put our left foot or our right foot in our pants before? Where did we learn that? When we were small, when we were first learning how to put on our pants, our parents told us how to do certain things. The way we look at money, the way we look at food, the way we deal with pressure, a lot of those habits were trained into us before we even realized we were being trained. And see, this is why adults, they have to get into more of a student mode, because what ends up taking place is our life will go in a direction that's nowhere near our true potential, and we won't even know it because we have these habits that were drilled into us from when we even knew we were learning. And that's why when you said it, ego, if we could, when I learned that my ego was my worst enemy.
Not your friend.
My name is Keith McDonald, and I knew I should have followed my first mind. Her mother and her son said that she was crazy, and I didn't believe it. Thank you. I can give witness to the fact that she does have some issues, a little more than she told me about at the beginning.
Hi, my name is Jonelle Russ, and you're watching Higher Learning Network.
That's when everything changed, especially once you get money involved. You're doing a little better than the people around you. You start feeling a little high on you. Ma'am, I went through it all, and I'm just so blessed that I made the choice to give back, because so many people would never know this information.
The so-called rappers and the big entertainers of the world who walk around with dark glasses on it, and I'm not knocking people who wear dark glasses, because I could use a pair right now because all these bright lights. But the point is that you pretend to hide because you don't want people to see you, but you really want people to pay attention to you. That's why you're wearing the dark glasses. Talk about a mindset. In chapter 4, you said your thoughts are not hidden. They are never hidden. Where you are in life clearly shows the world what has been going on in your head.
That, when I wrote that, I said, because that right there really puts a lot of people on Front Street. And the reality of it is at this point in our world, what we're doing right now, if you look back 10, 20 years, it all led up to that point. And what I like to help people figure out is, if you're saying to yourself, I want to be financially free, I want to be this, I want to be that, but your actions are not congruently matching up with those ending results, we have to get to a point where we either just accept the realities that we're dealing with, or we get to that point where we lower our defense, eliminate that ego, follow someone who's successful in that direction, and start modeling that pattern.
Who did you follow in your direction?
My mother, first of all, I give her so much credit.
What's mom's name?
Edna.
Are you kidding?
Edna Dixon.
Edna.
Lawson. I love you, Mama. I love you, Mama.
Look in the camera. Look in the camera and tell Mama how much you love her.
Thank you for everything you've done. You've raised me by showing me that you do not want to just take the easy road. I got a story. When I was 2 years old, my mother told me this. I dropped the pacifier out of my mouth. That was the last day I had a pacifier. So my point there is, my mother was a hard knock type person. She didn't baby me. She told me how it was. And that is one of the direct reflection benefits that has me in this position, where when I went to the Air Force, I was wondering why I enjoyed boot camp a little more than other people.
Really?
I'm serious. When I went, when I was 300 pounds, and one of the trainers said, Kinja, you in here in this tank top looking like that, man, you need to get your life together.
A busted can of biscuits.
I didn't get angry at him. I changed my life. So what I've noticed on the flip side is my harsh way of receiving feedback, which helps me, is not the way everyone likes to get feedback. So as becoming a trainer and talking to people and doing sales, I realized I can't be that type of harsh person in all situations. So I had to change. But my mother, seeing her raised me single-handedly with my father's help in New York, put me through private school, budgeting, showing me the process of how to become a man. And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki,
Yes.
explained the different thoughts between his rich dad and his poor dad. They both loved him, but there are different ways of thinking about money. But Napoleon Hill, Think and
Yes.
Grow Rich,
Yes.
was one of the life-changing books that I applied to my life. And another thing while we're talking about it, people do not need to just read books. They have to become
What
the
you've
book.
read.
There's a difference.
Right.
There's several people that read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In order to become that process, you really have to reevaluate, take some inventory,
Take some
and start
time.
applying those processes.
And that requires some quiet time. So that means you've got to turn off the television, not this show, but those other shows.
That's right.
You've got to quiet your mind. You can't listen to the radio. You know, I like to put on something very soothing, some ocean sounds or nature or something of that nature. And it's hard to do that because now that there's so much social media, you are the media. You don't have to go to channel whatever and get what it is that you're looking for because it's on 24/7. Television used to go off at what, 9 o'clock, midnight, or something like that. I know I'm telling my age, but that's a good thing because I'm still here.
Yes, ma'am.
But let's go back for just a second. You talked about Edna. That's my aunt's name who helped raise me when my mom died. So praise to Miss Edna, all the Ednas of the world. And you talked about what your trainer said to you. I have never, ever, ever in my life been enthusiastic about going to the gym. This is what I take to the gym with me.
Amen.
Praise God, through whom all blessings flow. I had an accident about a year or so ago, and I became a diabetic. I was already diabetic, and that just acknowledged it. But I discovered that I don't have to take insulin, but my dis-ease is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's controllable by diet and exercise.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I saw you or heard you and read you talking about, and when I saw that picture of you, I was like, he was a little chunky monkey.
Yes, ma'am.
You were nice and thick. I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe this. I'm going to the gym and I'm enjoying it.
Amen.
That had to be God speaking through you because there's no way in the world you could pay me to go to the gym and like it. Are you serious? I still don't. I'm still working on it. I can't say that I always look for. I don't look forward to going to the gym, but I do enjoy the benefits of it. So that's what keeps me excited. So I want to thank you, Kinja Dixon,
Thank you.
for helping me get to the gym more.
Amen. I'm honored. I hold back tears regularly, and this is one of those times.
All of
Thank
my
you.
life, I have avoided the gym. Now, I'm active. I love to roller skate, but I can't roller skate anymore. I love to ride my bike, but going to the gym, that was another story. So God took that from me. So now you got to get active because you got to move that body some way.
Yes, we have
So
to.
I just want to say thank you. That's my testimony for Kinja Dixon, Universal Talk Laws. Now you heard it. Now you know. Okay, so be sure and go out and get your copy. Wow, there is just so much more I want to talk about. I got all these pages outlined. Let me read you this from your book, like you don't know, right? We're talking about education. After self-education, she realized her only fear was due to ignorance and from what her father taught her. If the views our parents go against successful thinking models, we cannot carry those restrictive thoughts forward. She told me that what she learned after confronting the source of her fear was that whenever you fear something, you are placing chokeholds on possible blessings. Ironically, her husband ended up being a person from one of the races that she once feared. This was a sister who married someone who was not of her culture.
Yeah, and actually it wasn't, I don't know what your definition of a sister was, but
Okay.
yes, we're all brothers and sisters. It was
Right.
a person that was very fearful of other races because of what her father told her when she was smaller, and she ended up marrying this one of the races that
Right.
she was totally against. And she realized, what am I against?
Right.
And that is one of the reasons why we have to be honest with ourselves. I love my mother, I love my parents, I love people's parents, but reality is there's not a school or a class to teach you how to be an open, developed parent, you know, unless you go through some psychology.
Right.
So really the parent is only doing what is in their best. I love you, I want to protect you, and the reality is what we have to do is take a look at some of the things that they taught us and be open to look at, some possible other remedies.
I love it. It says you can learn something from all existence. So the fear of anything simply limits your growth, which internally locks you down. Speak a little bit on that.
One of the biggest days of my life was September 12th, 2012. On my YouTube page, I show my skydive. I jumped out of a plane. I had a massive fear of heights for years. A friend of mine, very close friend, Robert Cuff, we decided to go out and do a skydive one day. The enjoyment, the exhilaration, the feeling that I went through after that jump made me really analyze every single fear that I ever had. I said, how many other things am I holding myself back from because I'm scared of it? And I believe that was one of the pivotal points in my life that had a lot to do with me being able to step away on October 13th. I stepped away from a career where my W-2 at the time said, in October, about $395,000. Step away from that to
almost
now
$500,000
to help the world. How does someone do that?
How and
That's
why?
Tackling fear. Of course, realizing I had some things set up so that I'm now, financially independent. But at the same point, I had to eliminate that fear of not having that set, easy type of a process that I've done for 12 years to now start from ground zero. And the payment that I received from these emails, a lady in her 4th phase of cancer emailed me and told me that my mindset chapter is helping her tackle this last phase of her life with more strength. I can't. There's no sale that can put a payment in equivalent to that process.
And you notice that's the chapter I started on. I started on chapter 4.
Mindset.
And you notice that's the chapter I started on. I started on chapter 4.
Mindset.
If it's up here, it's going to show up, it's going to manifest somewhere on the physical plane.
Yes.
Simply awesome. Are you following your parents' footsteps down the wrong direction in your life? Were your parents the type that complained about how much work and how much they were underpaid? Is that the story in our community or what?
And what happens when that takes place is you become a coaster. Someone that because of this amount you're getting paid and the complaint that you feel based because you were drilled to complain about someone underpaying you, you never can achieve greatness because you don't know how to get into that Olympic mindset where you go above and beyond. I don't care what anyone does for a living. If they get into the habit of performing mastery as a janitor, bartender, doctor, lawyer, housewife, anything that you do, there's going to be some habits that are created that can help you when you do get to that point of owning your business or running that company. And we end up hurting ourselves by arguing about an uncontrollable situation.
Your mindset is the engine that runs your mental car. How many of us need to do an engine flush?
Exactly.
Now, that's a quote from his book.
Yes, ma'am.
You talk about where your values stem from, the values that in America, in the Western world that we're taught, it's all about the bling. It's who you know, where you live, what you drive, where you vacation, and how many zeros are behind your name or the letters behind your name. So those values that we bring to the table are not the values, our own personal values. Those are the values that have been given us, and we haven't learned how to sit down and dissect our thinking, our patterns that brought us to where we are today. And we stay stuck in that mode of, if I don't have this, I'm no good. Or you hear stories all the time about, I won't pay my rent. Like, what was it yesterday? I was looking at the line at Nike. people, 400 people in line to get $300 gym shoes. And on Facebook, there were comments like, well, I may not be able to pay my rent, but I'll look good in my gym shoes. Because those values are not our values. Those are values that are talking. You talk about that in your book. And that's part of the engine flush, I think.
Very much so.
The science of selling. I want to talk about how to figure out the emotions that need to be involved for the prospect to make that decision. Lots of times we don't know how to communicate with each other. And you said here on page 49, the unsuccessful communicator believes that they can just simply make someone want to purchase by explaining the benefits. Understanding that the emotional drivers behind the purchase decision will be one of the most critical pieces of your progression as you develop the skills. Your emotional intelligence must increase along the way. Speak on that for me.
Exactly. When you go into a store to buy an item and you're going to the cashier and you're paying for it, but you decided to buy it, the cashier did not necessarily sell you on buying it. They did take your credit card in a form of payment. What people that are in any type of persuasive ability need to understand is that the motive or emotion that made that person want to buy that item was either fear, fear of it going on sale, greed, I just want some more of it, shame, I'm not looking good in what I have on, I want to buy something different. But once you're able to dissect those emotions that anybody goes up to the cashier with, and once you know how to draw those emotions out by asking proper questions, that is the true ability and science of persuasion. It has nothing to do about the benefits until you know what is a benefit to that person. And I know we've all been in a position where we go into a location and the person just starts talking without asking you anything, and you're like, oh my goodness, I want to get out of here.
Right.
These are people that need to understand that there are laws that will determine the ease that the person that they're talking to will have. And the first thing is, how was your day? Right. And not just how was your day, you know, where you're acting. I really want to know how your day is, because there's so many things you could have went through that will determine the type of conversation we're going to have today. I need to be a reflection of, you know, what is going to bring happiness to you.
As you can see, we're here on the set of Friends and Lovers at the Erie Crown Theater, and you are about to experience the experience of a lifetime. We've got Miguel Nunez, we've got Mel Jackson. Did I say Mel Jackson? Of course. And you know what? I forgot to mention that Miguel Nunez is about to be a reporter for ZTV, and you'll get a chance to see that in just a little bit. We've also got the lovely Stacy. We've also got Mia Campbell. And, well, I don't want to tell you anymore. You just come on, follow me. We're going to have a good time. Friends and Lovers right here on ZTV. Thanks for watching. Gotta go.
As you can see, it looks good. This is the barber. He's really good. He's the barber to the stars.